guys, and welcome to the second vlog for the month of May. So I'm currently in the middle of 3 books, technically speaking, but I will say that for one of them it's just like I started my reread for it and then I was like, okay, I'm not gonna have enough time to finish it, still in April, and so I only read the prologue for it. I will at some point reread it, but I'm not entirely sure whether that's going to be during this vlog. But what I'm currently reading is By Blood, by Salt by J.L. Outtro. This is the Spiffbo winner of last year, so self-published indie fantasy book. And then the other book that I'm currently reading is Silverthorn by Raymond E. Weiss, which is the second book in the Riftward saga in the Broken Binding edition. And I was going to do a series reading vlog for this series, and I started that in January. We're May and I finally read it, and I'm finally reading the second book. Yay! So I am not going to be talking about this one a whole lot within this vlog because I'm gonna be saving my thoughts for this one for that particular vlog. But that is actually the book that I'm currently the most invested in, and that might just be because I'm listening to the audiobook because I have definitely been enjoying this one. It's just that I'm going through it quite slowly. Sometimes I have these books where my reading pace just struggles and I can go through it like 10 pages at a time, and every single time I'm left wondering, is this just a sign of the fact that I'm not enjoying it? But I do like the story. Maybe it's the writing style that maybe doesn't fully work for me or what, I'm not entirely sure, or it's just my brain needing a little bit more energy to get through it, but I am enjoying this. So this is a story in which we're looking at this society that's kind of torn between two different races, let's say. There are the, I'm going to refer to them by the root term that they're referred to, which is the jackals, and these were the original, I think, inhabitants of this particular city, and they fought a brutal battle with what I think is the colonizers, and the colonizers ended up winning that conflict, and so they see the jackals as like these brutal people that have slaughtered so many of their ancestors and that are inferior to them in all ways. However, they actually are the aggressors. Now every year there's sort of a festival in which they, for example, even sacrifice some of these jackals to their particular gods. And so one of the characters that we're really following is one of these jackals who actually has a pretty decent position in the society. He is part of a company of soldiers. However, within the company he basically has a somewhat leader position, not officially, but definitely one that is recognized by the captain of that unit and by the people who are below him. However, all of that kind of comes in jeopardy when this company of guards is basically recruited by the brother to the emperor and his crafty political advisor, because they have a sort of plan to boost the popularity of this brother in order to try and overthrow the actual emperor. So in order to do so, they get the emperor's approval to go on a mission into the desert, into the land that's called Sahar, I think, in search of what are referred to as Sahar devils, and take one of them back with them. They basically want to bolster his status amongst the army in order to try and at some point then raise a coup. The high standing of the jackal is definitely something that they don't like to see, because they definitely have this prejudiced view about what a jackal is, what a jackal can do, what a jackal's position in society should be. Plus that contrasts even further with the fact that they would like to have this brother take on that type of a position. So military fantasy, I'm about halfway through. I mean, I'm over halfway through at this point in time. I today have been going to the cat cafe. If you are not new here, you probably know that I lost my cat about a month ago, and so I am craving some feline attention. So I went to the cat cafe, gave some cuddles to some of the cats there, but most of them were like sleeping because the owner was saying that basically they'd had quite a rowdy morning apparently, so they were kind of chillaxing at that point in time. But one of the cats did kind of cross over me while she was trying to get away from some kids, so at least I had that interaction, and I did kind of pet her her a little bit as well before that, but I didn't want to pet her too much because I did indeed see that she wasn't really looking for human attention. But it was just fun to see the cats regardless of that, and to just like, you know, observe them and bask in their glory. And then I went to some dangerous spots for me because I went to the Lego store. Didn't buy anything, but that was mainly because they did not have the Jurassic Park Range Rover set, because if they would have had that, I probably would have caved and gotten that. And then I went to the 2 bookstores, not for me. I was trying to look for something for my mother, and you know, that's dangerous territory, but I got through it alive. I even got through it alive without a DVD purchase, because I was actually looking for the DVD of Project Hail Mary, but they didn't have it. Like, it's so interesting to see how streaming services has absolutely killed DVD ownership, because the DVD rack was just like one small rack in the entire store, where it used to be like a massive section. But so yeah, so I went to those 2 bookstores. I was actually looking for one specific book, couldn't find it. In the end I settled on a puzzle to give to my mother, but then on my way back home I was kind of going for some bubble tea. Unfortunately that store was closed, but on the way there it was like, oh yeah, right, we have another bookstore here, and it's actually an independent bookstore, but I don't think about this bookstore normally because it has mainly Dutch books on offer, but that's perfectly fine because I was looking for a book for my mother, and my mother reads in Dutch. So I found a book that I was looking for over there, and I did not buy a book for myself, did not buy any Lego, did not buy a DVD, got home empty-handed basically when it came to my own purchases. And so now I have 2 gifts for my mother, but I guess my mother's birthday is in July, so I guess I'll give the other gift to her in July then. But so yeah, I'm gonna settle down now with some more reading. I was hoping to clean today, but let's be honest, it's already like 2 o'clock, and I'll definitely do the laundry, and I'll fold away the old laundry. I'll get the dishwasher started, and maybe I'll clean out some of the stuff that are on my living room table. But that's probably the best I can hope for from myself at this point in time. So, finished my first book of this vlog. I finished Silverthorn by Raymond E. Feist. My full thoughts about this are going to be in that vlog, as I said before. I enjoyed this one. It's like a 3.75. I enjoyed it more than I enjoyed the Magician series. But this one is mainly like one plot line, and then there's a side branch in the storyline that just I didn't enjoy as much. It was just like less for me. I would have loved for it to just be contained, but of course it was trying to prepare for the 3rd book in the series, so yeah. But now I basically have one less book on the TBR, but the broken binding box is here. So I'm just gonna open this up for you guys. Let's see if Fate wants me to or not, because my battery is dying, so we'll see if I can even film this full clip or not. So this is the May SFF book, Ghostly Memories. I know the book, and I gotta say I'm quite curious about this edition because I actually love the original cover for this one. So I'm not entirely sure whether I'm going to enjoy the redesign, because last month's SFF was a redesign and I didn't like it, but at least we got the original cover in a different colorway, but I would have actually preferred the other color. So I don't see much from that view in the viewfinder, but I'm already like, no. So, The Girl with 1,000 Faces. This is a redesign, and to be fair, it's lovely, but the original cover is just nicer. It does have a cat, which, I mean, it's a plus, of course. So we have the sides. Every single moment we are undergoing birth and death is at the back. Then we've got the end pages. Quite dark color scheme here for everything. I do see. So stay here. Other end page. Gorgeous naked cover. Then that arrives like a sudden breeze and blows your spirit clean away. And reversible dust jacket. So this is a different color design than the original, but actually in this case I don't mind it all that much. I'm not I think orange instead of pink. I think the original has orange instead of pink, so that's not as big of a change as with Daughter of Crows, where we went from a green cover to an orange cover. Here it's like the main overall tone remains the same. It's just the accent color that changes. So I don't mind that, and I actually think that that means that I am going to be switching this around to the reversible dust jacket. So I'm just hoping for for better with the next one. It's just that these were two books where I found the original cover to be so strong already that a special edition, you know, has to really pull out all the stops to do it even better than the cover that was already foreseen by the publisher. And I do think that that is also why they have foreseen a reversible dust jacket, because I will say that that's definitely not the case for every SFF book. Maybe it's like a new direction that they're taking with it, and I don't mind that at all, because, you know, what I consider as like the better cover might be different might be different to what somebody else considers. And so maybe for some other books I'm like, oh yeah, I love the redesign, and some other people are like, no, I want the original cover. And so it wouldn't be a bad thing if they just keep on putting the reversible dust jacket with like a new colorway for the original cover, so that people who do prefer the original cover art can just keep on using that. But so yeah, I am very happy with this reversed cover. As I said, I do not mind this. I just think it gives off a completely different vibe. Maybe after reading the book I'll be like, oh, okay, I do think that this works better with the content of the book, but we'll see. I don't actually know what this is about, and I'm going to keep it like that, but I will say I have read a Sun Yedin book before, which I read for the Illumicrate subscription, which I had at that point in time, and I did not like it. So we'll see. Hello guys! I don't know when I last updated you guys anymore, but it will have been a few days ago. It will probably have been during the weekends. So I have gotten a new roommate. His name is Rocky. I love Rocky. Rocky is a new robot vacuum cleaner. I have had a robot vacuum cleaner all the time that I've been in this apartment, but I had like a sucky one, you know. I had like a Roomba that was like a few years old in terms of its technology when I got it, and I got it about like 10 years ago. So it's probably like technology from like 15 years ago, so like when robot vacuum cleaners were still in their early days. And so it's like a robot vacuum cleaner that does not know where it's going, so it's just like randomly going around. So it'll skip certain spots, it will do certain spots 20,000 times, it will bump into the same chair 20 times. And you know, it was super loud as well. You had to clean out the little compartment every single time and stuff like that. So I was basically barely using it, and I finally got around to getting a new one. And that's not even because of like been thinking about it for years or anything like that. Nope. I have, of course, occasionally thought about the fact that maybe a new robot vacuum cleaner could be nice, but then I've always kind of been like, yeah, but what if it's like this one and I don't end up using it at all and I spend all this money on it? But earlier in the week I basically asked Copilot, like, if I'm gonna get 2 cats again in November, and I'm basically a super lazy cleaner, then what are your sort of like suggestions for things that I can already get right now that are gonna hugely impact the way that I can manage keeping my apartment clean? And the first thing that it said was a robot vacuum cleaner, and it proposed Rocky. And so Rocky, it has been a life changer so far. It is sweeping my living room and my kitchen every morning at 6 o'clock. It will be mopping every weekend, and yeah, I'm like slowly setting up the different rooms. So I did do the hallway, the bedroom earlier this week. It has done this room today, and this room is like a mess. I zoom in a lot in this video because there's a lot in frame, otherwise that is basically just trash. And the good thing so far about getting Rocky as well is that it has just motivated me to kind of try and tackle some of the mess in my apartment, to kind of want to look for like different places to organize certain things, or thinking about throwing certain stuff away, and I do these projects every once in a while, but definitely not frequently enough, and then I never get rid of enough things. And so probably that'll be the case as well here, where I'm gonna get rid of a ton of stuff, but I'm also gonna be reluctant to get rid of some things that definitely should go because I'm not really getting any use out of them. I'm never opening these boxes, so why am I keeping the things that are in there? But I'm now motivated to do another one of those rounds at least, and in any case it has been really nice to kind of see at least the floor look more at least, you know, like the floors looking nice and clean, seeing how that has resulted in me like making sure that I have less crap piling up everywhere, because that means that of course the robot vacuum cleaner can do its job less well if there's more stuff lying around. So it has so far been good, and I'm hoping to continue having great experiences with it. But so I have finished, in the previous update I think I talked about that, the Silverthorn by Raymond E. Feist, and I've jumped into A Darkness at Thetannon, which will conclude the trilogy prompt for Herkiet, and it will also be the one of the books for the Make a Quote prompt on Herkiet, because I need a book with A in the title, and now I saw this title and I was like, oh, actually I can totally use this for the Make a Quote one, and I cannot really talk about it in my Make a Quote video, so that was kind of a reason for me to kind of hesitate about it, because the coolest thing would be to do a full vlog for the Make a Quote one. But on the other hand I was like, yeah, okay, but you know, I am reading a book now that has in the title. I didn't have a book set out yet for the vlog for that particular category, and you know, in any case, a weekly vlog in which I have to read 5 books. 5 books is too much for me to read within a week, so it could be a nice way to kind of make a weekly vlog out of it and still, you know, be able to make it manageable by at least having one of the 5 books already read. So I'm reading that right now. I will not be able to talk about this because this is the 3rd book in the series, so I'll also have all of my spoilery thoughts about it in that particular reading vlog for the Riftwar Saga, and here I can just tell you guys that my feelings are sort of like the same as they were in the 2nd book. I love the storyline of Jimmy the Hand and Naruto, and I do not care about the storyline of Pug. And then I have continued a little bit in the most neglected book of the month, By Blood, by Salt. I do definitely think that we are about to go into a challenge weekend. I mean, technically we've started. It starts on Friday, so that's today. It is a challenge weekend that is a weekend that is hosted by Barbora from Bookworm Wonder. Basically every month we do one of these challenge weekends in which we kind of challenge ourselves to set certain goals and kind of try and reach them, and then we collect money for a cause, which is now a cause that has to do with sharks, and last month I didn't really participate, but this month I am definitely looking forward to taking part, and my goal is going to be to finish 3 of the books. So it's going to be the one that I just showed you, By Blood, by Salt, and then the one I'm going to talk about next. So By Blood, by Salt, I am continuing on with it, and I'm not disliking it, but unfortunately it's also not like compelling me as much as I would have hoped that it was going to. But there is still 40% of this book left to go, and so we'll see whether that ends up changing. It's definitely a book that I'm liking, it's just not a book that I'm like absolutely over the moon about. And then the final book that I'm currently reading is a book that I picked up basically on a whim. Actually, I have another book that I'm currently reading, but I just don't physically have it. But let me keep that for a later date, because this is one of the books I also want to prioritize throughout this weekend, whereas the other one is not. And that is The Girl with 1,000 Faces. I think I showed this one perhaps earlier within this video when I was unboxing it, and I was just like compelled to pick it up immediately, and I'm actually enjoying this, even though it has taken somewhat of a twist that is dangerous for me, and something has just happened that has made me go like, wait, is this the direction this story is going to take? I don't know what to think of that. But so basically we're following a woman in her 50s. So in case you need r/fantasy prompt, we have a protagonist here who's in her 50s. She is living in Kowloon, which is a section of Hong Kong. And she is basically somebody who can talk to ghosts, because Kowloon is a city that is very much infested by ghosts. Some of them more friendly than others, and so there is definitely a market there for somebody who can exorcise ghosts. However, that's not really what she does. She talks to the ghosts and basically based on that finds out like what the remaining qualms are that the people have, and tries to get them to, you know, make peace with that. But make peace can be very violent, let me tell you that. And so our protagonist is a woman in her 50s who basically made her way to Kowloon some 30 years ago, I think. And at that point in time, she was found after a return from an island that she doesn't really have any memories about, only dreams that are haunting her. And so she didn't really know how she had come to be there, what she had done, who she was, more or less. And she made her way over to Kowloon, where she then ended up being part of the resistance during the Japanese occupation, and then met up with this criminal sort of like gangster leader known as Tiger Lily, I want to say. But I'm always confused because that is the name of the I know it's Cobra Lily, I think, because Tiger Lily is the name of the character in Peter Pan, and so every time I heard his name I thought of her, and now I think that like, yeah, she's Tiger Lily and this was Cobra Lily probably. But, so she is basically working for this woman. However, when in the beginning of this book she meets somebody on the street who kind of recognizes her and is like, do you remember the island, or something like that. The story is told through two timelines. So we have her present day timeline, which is in the 1970s in Kowloon, as I said, and then we have her flashbacks to 30 years earlier. Something massive has just happened and I need to know what happens, but now we've had like 2 chapters in the past timeline and I'm like, no. Go back to the present, please. But yes, I am very much enjoying that. And so I think I talked about how I had read another Sunyi Dean previously and DNF'd it. And so far that is not the case. So far I'm having a really good time with this one. I am listening to this one, but I'm pretty sure that I also listened to the previous one. And yeah, I'm having a great time with it and I'm very happy that I picked it up off of a whim. This is going to count as like the second book this month that I'm picking up off of on a whim, and that I'm picking up that basically is not really like, I'm not picking it up for Herkyet. Which is one of my Herkyet challenges, is to pick up 2 books each month that I'm like, I don't know whether I'm gonna count you for Herkyet, but I'm gonna pick you up anyway because I really want to read you. I could count this book for Herkyet, definitely, because I can count it for the Asian Heritage Month, for example, but I'm gonna, like, the plan is to read multiple books this month that I'm gonna count for that, and actually for the final book that I'm also currently reading is a book that I can count for Asian readathon. So I would definitely say like it is not a book that I'm picking up for Herkyet, because I'm planning other books that I can read, and so definitely the other book that I'm currently reading I am planning to finish this month as well, and that could count for non-fiction and for Asian Heritage Month. So there's no reason for me to pick up The Girl with 1,000 Faces, except for the fact that I just really wanted to read it. So yeah, I'm happy to have done that. Part of my brain was also, of course, like, yeah, but it's like the most recent book on my TBR, so it will not actually have, like, it will negatively impact the average amount of days that my books are on my TBR. But at the same time, I'm like, yeah, but I'm also reading the 2 oldest books on my TBR this month, so you know, we're still positively impacting it overall. And in any case, I always want, like, the reason for me to reduce my TBR is that I want to be getting to the books that I'm excited about picking up in the moment that I'm excited about picking them up. So if I, for some reason, all of a sudden have this dying urge to pick up this book, then I should definitely listen to that instinct and just go for it. Morning, guys. It is Sunday and it is not the final day of the weekend, so that always makes me happy because tomorrow we have a bank holiday. So I have just finished the first book for this weekend, because I do believe I already said, right, that my plan was to try and finish 3 books this weekend. Now I will say that also my plans for this weekend have kind of slightly derailed into a side quest, because my plan was to tackle this room basically. There's a lot of like mess in this room, because this is basically the room where stuff comes to dwindle into obscurity, because here I keep like some of the stuff that I basically almost never use. And you know, that has accumulated quite a lot of stuff that I didn't really want to tackle, but we're finally going to tackle them. So I had started out by putting some of my Lego boxes into the biggest Lego box that I have, but that's got into a side quest of me dismantling the entire Hogwarts castle. So that took me all of Friday evening, majority of Saturday. Of course, I was listening to an audiobook most of that time, though sometimes I wasn't. But so yes, that meant that yesterday late afternoon I did still start this room, and I do still feel like I have made some progress, even though I've only spent maybe like an hour in here. So that's good news, but that's definitely gonna be what I'm gonna be tackling next throughout this day, which means I'm gonna need my other audiobook as well. But so I have finished The Girl with a Thousand Faces by Sunyi Dean, and I really enjoyed it. I ended up giving it a 4-star. I think last time I talked to you guys there was just like a twist that happens, and I absolutely love that, but I do also feel like because the twist is like in the middle of the book, that somehow that has kind of diminished my enjoyment, because then I had like the high point in the middle of the book of being like, oh, nice, didn't see that coming, and then I just didn't have that same sort of like rush of, ooh, that's so cool, towards the ending of the book. But I do definitely think that I really enjoyed this book, and I enjoyed its time setting. So it's taking place after the Japanese occupation of China, and so we are dealing with the aftermath of that and with the resentment that these ghosts have towards what has happened to them, and that anger lashing out not just at Japanese invaders but at everybody. And so basically sort of like manifestation, I guess, of generational trauma. And I enjoyed the actual story we ended up getting with our protagonist, and I cannot really go into much with that because towards the second half of the book, of course, because of, as I said, that twist being there in the middle of the book that I cannot really talk about. But I definitely did enjoy that, and I enjoyed how this book overall is about. Yeah, my my robot vacuum cleaner is going, and this is not the perfect time for this update. But so overall I enjoyed how this story is a lot about dealing with injustice that has been done to you and overcoming that and moving on with your life, and not getting stuck and not getting sucked in or stuck in resentment and anger, as basically this entire nation has been dealing with a lot of things that have angered, rightfully, the population. But so yes, I enjoyed it a whole lot. Definitely think that it's one that is worthwhile if you are somebody who enjoys that particular setting. But also if you enjoy a good sort of like story being told out of order, figuring out something midway through the book that will totally change your perspective of what you have seen thus far, then this book is definitely also something that can really appeal to you. And so yeah, I've really enjoyed this one, and I'm ready to move on to my next read. I think that my next focus is going to be A Darkness at Setenen, because of the fact that that is an audiobook, and then I can continue cleaning up this room, basically just organizing this room, basically deciding what can go or what can stay. Actually, I'm just thinking now that I received a few artworks as well at a YA day recently that I've been keeping because the art is really pretty, but on the other hand I'm really like, why am I keeping that? I'm never gonna use that. I still have, like, I buy art prints when I go to museums. I still have all of those. I've never hung them up at all, so why am I keeping like some random art for a book that I haven't read yet that I got for free? So I think I shall also be tossing that. I'm hoping to be very like brutal in my cleanse this year, and so maybe even like there are certain things that I'm keeping hold of, things from like memories from the past. I have all of my Christmas cards that I've received since living here, and I never actually look back at them, so I'm also thinking that maybe I can just get rid of those as well, because you know, there is sentiments, but then there's also just like needless clutter. Like, will I ever look back at those? And if I look back at those, will that tell me anything compared to looking back at like pictures of spending time with the people who sent me these cards, for example? So I think I'm actually gonna get rid of them. That is going to be a nice new box space saved up, and a box space inside my big cupboard, which would be actually quite a gain.
Is a pilgrimage by bicycle.
Hello guys, it is super hot. It is the next weekend almost, but I did manage to read 430 pages in the challenge weekend, so yay for me. I did not do the goal of finishing 3 books, unfortunately, but I did finish 2, because I also did finish A Darkness at Setenen. So I'm not going to talk too much about it within this particular vlog, but this one ended up disappointing me. It ended up being what I had always expected the series to be, which is not to say that there weren't parts of this that I enjoyed. I enjoyed the whole story with Jimmy the Held, and I really like those characters. It's just that overall this isn't the type of story that I gravitate towards. This is what I imagine a classic fantasy story to be like, and I just am very happy that fantasy has evolved in a different direction in terms of its storytelling techniques and the type of story focus that we see in modern fantasy nowadays. Now, I am still reading multiple books at the same time, but I guess the one that I'm furthest along in, almost just in terms of its full page counts, like if we're speaking relatively here, I think I should mention I, Robot by Isaac Asimov. This is going to be my book for Jewish Heritage Month, which is also the month of May, as Isaac Asimov was a Jewish author, and this is of course a very well-known book that is at the foundation of a ton of robots stories that came after it, and I'm actually really enjoying this one. I didn't really know what to expect. I have actually also not seen I, Robot the movie. As far as I'm aware, it's just a movie that is based off of the principles and maybe some characters within this particular book, but it's not actually like a retelling of the story, and I also don't think it can be, because this basically is slightly like it is just short stories that are just kind of like drawn to one together in a frame story that basically talks about an interview. There's basically just an interview with this woman who's been very sort of like pivotal within robot science in this fictionalized world, and basically our interviewer is interviewing her and asking her for some of the stories that she had of where things involving robots have gone awry in the past. And so all of those chapters are then these stories, and I've really enjoyed them actually, because basically there are 3 laws of robotics, and this is the introduction of this particular concept, and the book will basically be spending most of its time exploring situations in which these 3 laws of robotics can create unexpected results, and we're basically always examining a sort of situation in which a robot acts out of order and then trying to use logical reasoning to harken its behavior back to the 3 laws of robotics and figuring out how these 3 laws have impacted his behavior and have resulted in this particular situation. I think the only one that doesn't really use the 3 laws of robotics in that way is the first short story, which is a short story in which we're following a robot who is basically built in order to take care of people, and he is basically a nanny to a young girl within this story. However, the parents, especially the mother, is quite reluctant to have a robot take care of her daughter, and she doesn't really feel safe with him taking care of her daughter. She is not at all at ease with the way that people look at them and the way that people judge them for allowing a robot to take care of their daughter, and so they are reluctant about this relationship and kind of want to break up the relationship that their daughter has with this robot, because their daughter on her end absolutely loves this robot and is very strongly attached. I've really been enjoying this one so far. Occasionally I have to start an entire short story over again because just my mind isn't necessarily on it always, but that mainly just happens with the beginnings of stories, and so I've definitely been enjoying the figuring out of what has gone wrong in all of these. I've actually really been enjoying just using logic to try and figure out which ones of the 3 laws of robotics has actually impacted the robot's decision in making in this particular instance. So this one, doable, definitely. But I mean, it is Thursday evening. I have not been in the reading mood today, so the only progress today has been my progress in iRobot, which was just 1 chapter, so 1 short story today, and I've just not been feeling it. And I don't actually think it is to do with the books that I'm currently reading. Sure, I am not super excited about By Blood, by Salt. I am having no real issues with it. It's just not something that gets me turning the pages. I am also reading a non-fiction about Palestine, which I find very, very interesting, of course, but it is also, of course, not light reading. And so it's not necessarily something that I'm ooh, I'm so eager to pick it up right now, but I am definitely enjoying it and I'm learning a whole lot through that. And then I've got iRobot going on, which, it's my commute book. I actually don't need it for commute anymore for the rest of this particular month, so I guess I could just make my life easy, I guess, and listen to this for the remainder of the evening and get close to finishing it, but I'm just not feeling it, I have already read 13 books this month. I've read 4,000 pages already this month, and I guess I'm sort of feeling that now. I'm sort of just can we just not read for once? So I think that I shall be embracing that. I also kind of embraced that. I didn't embrace that. That was also basically happening yesterday evening already. And then I didn't necessarily fight it, but definitely felt not that great about my lack of reading progress yesterday. And today I'm having the same sort of situation and I'm feeling you know what, let's just embrace it for the time being. This has been an amazing reading month so far already, and so if I don't finish out all of these books, if I don't get every single drop of page progress out of this month that I can get, then that is perfectly fine, because we've already done more than we've done in some other months, and let's just go with what my gut is telling me to do. My gut just wants to watch some content, watch shows, and let that be that. And then also tomorrow evening I'm going to a pizza party with my colleagues, so no reading progress tomorrow, and so no reading progress tomorrow with the exception of potentially listening to one of these stories on the way to work, but on the way back I'm basically just driving along with my colleagues to a restaurant and back, so there will be no time for reading at that point in time. And then tomorrow will be the day in which I should get some reading done, and then on Sunday there's also going to be time for reading, but there's also a barbecue happening that is going to take up quite a lot of my time on Sunday as well, so that will make for less productive reading time on Sunday. So I should get most of my reading done on Saturday, and so yeah, I'm actually wondering what I should focus on, whether I should just focus on iRobot because I know that that has the most chance of me finishing it out still this month, and then I do have a book that counts for Asian Heritage Month and a book that counts for Jewish Heritage Month, and I will have read them within those months, even though you're technically not required to do that for her yet. Or I can focus on By Blood, by Salt and just get that done. You know, get it done this month. I have 100 pages more or less now left to go in that, so it is definitely still doable. But if I'm not going to be reading tonight and tomorrow night, and I'm only basically going to have the majority of Saturday to focus on it, then it's less likely because of the fact that I'm basically constantly needing breaks from it. So yeah, we'll see guys, we'll see. Alright, so it is Sunday, it's the final day of May. I'm gonna be trying to finish out By Blood, by Salt today. So I haven't really talked about this book at all, I feel like, in any of my vlogs. But so this is a military fantasy, and we basically have a politician who's manipulating a army battalion because he wants to get sort of like a new ruler into the lead of his kingdom, and then the army that he's basically abusing suffers a loss of their commander early on within this book, and the sort of like natural leader of this group now is a Masheve, which is basically a ethnicity that is very much looked down upon. They are basically like slaughtered every year in this sort of like ceremonial festival celebrating like the win over the Mashevis in the past, and their interests are basically clashing with a desert person who has been slowly killing off the battalion one person at a time. Now, almost done with this one. I have been making my way through this one super slowly. In part it just never was my main priority, but I was also always kind of like feeling at the end of a chapter I kind of feel like I'm done with it to some extent. But I do definitely think that I'm not disliking this one at all neither. It's just not one that like really hooks and grips me in the sense of like wanting to like fly through it and see what happens next, but it is always intriguing. There are very nuanced characters within this one, and so there are still a lot of mysteries when it involves our desert person, for example, but also our Mashevi officer. He definitely has some mystery surrounding his past that I feel like we're hinting at more and more. Like it seemed like we had the entire story with this guy to some extent. We were never really introduced to his past, but it was also not presented as something that could potentially hold secrets. And now I'm starting to think more and more that he is actually not what he's letting out to be. And then I did finish I, Robot yesterday, and so yeah, this book is really like falling apart. It's a very old copy, and even though I haven't been physically reading from it, just placing my bookmark at the end of each chapter has already like dismantled this book into like 7 parts or something like that. But I did actually really enjoy this one. I don't think I have anything further to say compared to what I said last time, but yes, I do think that all these stories work really well, and I didn't mind the fact that it's more of a short story collection to some extent, that is like rigged together in one sort of like telling, because it is clearly one telling, you know, it's one interview in which these different anecdotes come to the front, and sometimes between one chapter and the next the transition is so smooth, so fluid, that it doesn't really feel like 2 separate short stories, but really like a continuation from the story that came before it. So I really enjoyed this one a lot, and yeah, maybe I should try some more Isaac Asimov. Maybe I should try the Foundation trilogy. I do think I've read Fantastic Voyage, if that is by him, but I actually don't have any memories of it, and the second book to that is actually one of the books that my dad gave me in like this big pile of old sci-fi, so maybe one day, maybe I'll give that a go. But so yeah, I'm on Sprints with Daniela right now, who is a lovely fellow booktuber from the channel Only If For a Page, and her channel has just celebrated a big milestone because she has just hit 1K subscribers. So if you aren't following her yet, then do go and check out her content as well. She also has a ton of short form content, which is something that I would like to introduce more in my channel into the future. And I'm sprinting over on her channel, but I do have a barbecue for the neighbors to go to in like an hour, and not that much longer than an hour. I have 40 pages left of this book at this point in time. I'll probably get to 20 more within this particular sprint, maybe 25 more, whatever, but it's definitely not going to be fully finished. I hope that there's some time for me tonight to still finish this one out, because it would be stupid to leave it off with like 15 pages left. There's also a possibility for it to get really exciting at the last 15 minutes of the book. This is not a standalone, there is a sequel to it, so I'm already prepared for maybe a cliffhanger or something like that. But yeah, I'm gonna try and get as far as possible in now before the barbecue, because it is potentially gonna take a long time. And I will say that I'm actually already battling sleep a little bit, because you know, I haven't been having the best of sleep the last few nights because of the heat, I guess, and because of having my window open, which I don't typically have. And so the sleep score has been low, the body battery has been low, and I've definitely felt it as well. Like yesterday I was so out of it in the morning when I woke up, and today I felt like I was more invigorated again, and I had a good night's sleep according to the watch. But then, you know, when when I was on sprints and I was reading a chapter, I felt like my eyes closing again, which also might just be what I said, that like these chapters really tire me out. And that is the sound of the barbecue. So it is June in the meantime, but I'm here to round off the May vlog, because I did finish By Blood, by Salt still on the final day of May. So after the barbecue I still had time to read the final sort of like 20 pages, or I think I even only had 19 left after the barbecue. And I have already ordered the second book, so I guess that tells you something. Though the main reason why I ordered it immediately after was because I was like, yeah, now I still remember what happens, I need to actually immediately read the sequel. The sequel is quite a lot thicker, which might mean that I'll be reading it like forever, right? Because this one took me way longer than I thought it was going to take me. But I do still think I really enjoyed this one. As I said, I had difficulties getting through it. It did go slower for me, but I did really enjoy that we were very much taking our time with everything that was happening, and how little we actually revealed with this one, because I still feel like we have almost no knowledge of our protagonist and of the character that he meets in the desert, and both of them are very much keeping a ton of secrets to themselves. We have found out a little secret that where he is involved with towards the end of the book, and I just enjoy it. Like, I think the author has managed to create a sense of mystery surrounding these two characters that I was really hoping to get a little bit more of their backgrounds within this book, and because I didn't get it in this book, I'm like, okay, I need to read the sequel because I really need to know what is going on here. And yes, I enjoy these sort of like dirtiness, I guess, of the plot to some extent, of all that is going on with these sort of like alliances, but the motivations behind those alliances as well, and like the way that those alliances are sold. It's also not necessarily like told through a white lie or anything like that, but basically confronted with the dirty facts and being like, okay, but you can take this deal, or I mean, you're gonna be like no longer here, basically. So I have enjoyed this book, and I am definitely looking forward to reading the sequel, which should be arriving tomorrow already. But so yeah, that is gonna be it for my May vlog. I ended up reading over 4,000 pages within the month of May, which is definitely an amazing achievement. I achieved this like in September or October or something like that. I think in October for Magical Readathon, and then I really had to like stick to a strict schedule, whereas this time around it just came naturally because of that huge start I had in the beginning of the month by reading so many murder bots of books. But so yeah, I had a good month of May. I didn't necessarily end up reading what I thought I was going to read, but that's good because this is the year of spontaneity, and so if I ended up reading stuff that wasn't the intention, and it's also not like the things that I ended up reading are things that I read because I feel like I had to read them, then good job. That is exactly what we are trying to do from now on. But so yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and see you guys for the next one. Bye!